Titans, go!
Hello again, everyone. Welcome back to Titan Talk, the Titans podcast. I'm Charles Skaggs, one of your co-hosts here in Doom Manor as we get ready to talk some Doom Patrol. And I'm here with my other co-host, the ever-incredible, ever-blue in his bright royal blue t-shirt, Jesse Jackson.
Hello. So I'm ready to talk Flex Patrol. But before we start, I wanted to mention very interesting point that Jane mentioned she had known the chief for 50 years. Wow, they do a good job of using moisturizer and products, right?
And nobody blinks an eye at that. Nobody's going like, well, how are you still alive?
I was hoping you would.
And we'll talk about that here a little bit. But yeah, it's just more the immortality in play that for whatever reason nobody seems to blink an eye at here. It's kind of interesting. But yes, as Jesse said, we're here at episode 33 of Titan Talk. We're going to talk Flex Patrol as we hit to the home stretch of our first season of Doom Patrol. This is episode 13, released just a few days ago on May 10th, 2019. And by the way, happy Mother's Day, everybody, here as we're recording this. And this episode was written by Tom Farrell, who co-wrote the episode Puppet Patrol and wrote the episode Danny Patrol, and along with Tamara Becker Wilkinson, who was the other co-writer on Puppet Patrol and wrote the big Doom Patrol episode. So we've got some serious Doom Patrol vets here. Some of our favorite episodes they've written, directed by T.J. Scott, new to the series, and definitely looking forward about talking about this one with you as we get the full dose of Flex Mentallo, Man of Muscle Mystery, and looking forward to getting your quick thoughts on what you thought of this episode, Jesse.
I feel like I've become redundancy man of redundancy I just keep saying I just love the series and I love the episodes. I'm sure we'll talk about the very nice kind of Mr. Nobody appearance at the end.
Yes. Well, okay, that's topic number 3.
Yeah, so we'll great stuff.
Yeah, there's a big revelation, of course, at the end. Mm-hmm. Mr. Nobody, still up to his no goodness.
Yes.
Manipulating some other people. And apparently he has a plan. And we get a good taste of that here in a very fourth wall breaking moment we'll talk about here in our third topic today. Guest cast this week. We get the return of Devan Chandler Long. No longer just as 722, he is now officially Flex Mentallo. John Burdell is Darren Jones, who we thought was possibly killed, but I can't keep a good villain down, I guess, and he's revealed as still being alive, not dead yet. Alan Tudyk, of course, is Mr. Nobody, who we just talked about. We get the return of Ethan McDowell as Charles Forsythe, the young one, from Larry's flashback back to the 60s in the ant farm. We get Ed Asner as credited as hospital patient, although he turns out to be something quite more. And obviously, Jesse and I, being as older than dirt as we are, we're familiar with Ed Asner because, back when I was a kid, the Mary Tyler Moore Show introduced him as Lou Grant, a character popular enough to get his own spinoff show. And he was also he's done a lot of animated vocal work, especially in superheroes, involving superheroes, that I wanted to run down really quickly. So it was great to see him here on live action on Doom Patrol. Um, he's most notably known as the voice of Grainy Goodness on Superman the Animated Series and Justice League Unlimited, and just, very cool. It's very funny that to have a guy, Ed Asner, playing a female character, but if you're familiar at all with Granny Goodness, I thought
I always
was
thought that was
perfect as the
great. His
character.
voice was perfect for this. He truly is a icon of my youth. It was someone who
Mm-hmm.
you always knew he would give a a good performance and added some really strength to it. And then our younger listeners may know him from a certain animated movie, correct?
Well, there's several actually. He played the character Perry White in All-Star Superman, based on
Ooh,
the 12-issue maxi series by
perfect.
Grant Morrison, Doom Patrol writer, and Frank
Yes.
Quitely. See how that ties in nicely. He was also the voice of J. Jonah Jameson, who of course has his one or two
Yes.
issues with Spider-Man on Spider-Man the Animated Series. And for you Batman the Animated Series fans, as I am, he played the recurring villain Roland Daggett on that show. So he's had a lot of the
And
major
I was going
superhero
for
animated
he was the
projects.
voice of
And
Carl in
and
Up.
it, yeah, go.
Yes.
Oh, okay, that's right. So
Yeah.
that's definitely, that's a big
Yes.
one, because if you're a big
Yeah.
Pixar geek, yes, thank you for mentioning that. I totally
It
forgot
even
about that, but
looks
you're
like
right.
him a little. They even made
But
him look a little
so
bit like him. Uh, yeah.
as
Yeah.
far as the face, I mean, obviously it
Yeah.
has more hair as Carl,
Yeah, just say I
yeah, he did
smiled
a
when I
great
saw
job.
him.
So
I'm like, oh, that's kind of that's a nice get to get someone of that
yes,
that depth, and
yeah. I mean, if you go through his IMDb page, he's got such a long and
yeah,
history career, going all the way back to the '60s. And so he's obviously a TV
hmm
veteran. He's done a lot of things. Obviously, we could spend all day
yeah.
just talking about all the stuff
I'm a
Ed
big Aaron
Asner's
Sorkin
done.
fan, and he had a really great part in Studio 60 on the Sunset Strip, one of the Aaron Sorkin shows that was a one and done. But I, of course, being a Sorkin fan,
Mhm.
loved it, and he played a great guy for that. So yeah, just
Right.
absolutely, it is. I'm scrolling down, you know, there is so many, and we're not.
I know.
Absolutely,
Like I
yeah.
said, we could be here all day talking about Ed Asner's career, but this is not
Though
Ed
not a
talk
bad
or
spinoff.
Asner
We'll put
talk.
that on our
This is
list of
tight.
things.
Yeah,
Probably
I'm
not.
not sure how well the ratings will be for
Okay.
that one, but we'll keep it in mind. We also had in a cameo, of course, the return of Phil Morris as Silas Stone,
I was so
who's,
happy.
hey,
Were
not
you
dead
happy?
after all. And
Okay.
we'll talk about that. We'll talk about that in our first segment. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that was a big surprise, wasn't it? And we get another cameo of Alec Mappa as Animal, Vegetable, Mineral Man, who gets another footage cameo as we get to see him gunned down by an assassin. But thankfully, hey, Animal, Vegetable, Mineral Man still kicking, and must be
Well,
that
didn't it say
dino
it hit his
DNA
mineral or
inside
something?
him.
So that's why he's part. Um,
Exactly. Yeah, it hit. That's right. It did hit his
when he
mineral
first
parts.
showed up, I
Yeah, which
talked
was
about
that was
how hilarious he was on Entourage, and I cannot believe how much
yeah.
mileage, just a little. I mean, it's a little touch of seasoning that they've added him through this
Mhm.
thing. So they've really got a lot of mileage out of a weird character.
Well,
Yeah.
well, if you notice, yeah, like we kind of get an update on what's going
Yeah.
on with him and his court case and
Mhm.
everything every few episodes, and it's kind of this weird little like
Yeah. It's been nice.
subplot, and it's kind of funny just to kind of check in with him because he's
Absolutely.
such a goofball character. I kind of hope, though, I want to see
Yes.
him run into the Doom Patrol one more time.
Yeah.
So maybe in season 2, that would be great. All right. Thankfully, still not dead, though. We get Haley Strode as the young Dolores. And I wanted to mention her. She's been in some interesting episodes of things. She's been on an episode of iZombie.
Nice.
And she's been on Castle. And if you remember the show, The Astronaut Wives Club, she was also in an episode of that. So just thought I'd mention her. And then we get the return of Susan Williams as the old Dolores, who sadly meets her end in this episode, much to Flex's horror, as it turns out. And I'll talk about that here a little bit more in a minute. So very cool cast. I did want to run down some quick trivia before we get into our main topics, because there were a few nods to the comics in this episode. Just real quick, won't take very long. The hair cutting scene where Flex's hair and beard are trimmed off by Jane and Cliff, and it's kind of funny because Cliff is trying to cut with robot fingers here with those really huge scissors. In the comics, that scene took place in Doom Patrol Volume 2, number 39, but it was actually by one of the characters that hasn't been introduced yet here on the TV show, Dorothy Spinner. So if you read the comic, you know there's a little slight difference there, but no big deal. And I thought the scene worked out really well here. Also, in Doom Patrol Volume 2, number 42, just a few issues later, we get Flex Mentallo's origin story. And what we find out there is, and it is kind of addressed here on the TV series, is that Flex was captured while he was investigating and infiltrating the Pentagon. Now, if you remember me telling you that the ant farm is located deep within the bowels of the Pentagon. So he basically ends up in an ant farm, and he gets captured by the Men from Nowhere, who, if you recall, those were the original characters that have been kind of replaced here on the TV show by the Bureau of Normalcy. And you know, they use their little elbow devices, the Men from Nowhere do, and they place him in what's called the Tea Room of Despair, this kind of little limbo realm. And essentially he's captured and then kind of experimented on by the ant farm. He ends up losing his memory, but he escapes somehow from the ant farm, and he's left to kind of wander around homeless and crazy. And then in the comics, he ends up on Danny the Street, and that's where he hooks up with the Doom Patrol. So obviously a slight difference here from the comics, but slight, you know, basically the gist is there. If you substitute the Men from Nowhere for the Bureau of Normalcy. And then lastly, in the next issue, 43, Dolores Watson, Mrs. Flex Mentallo, returns to Flex as an unwitting agent for the Men from Nowhere, kind of like she was here for the Bureau of Normalcy. She gives him his costume in the comics and then ages to dust, just like she does in the TV show, just before the Men from Nowhere locate Flex. So that part, at least, where she kind of crumbles to ash and dust and whatnot, blows away in the wind. Basically, she gets Thanos snapped, and she that's right from the comics. So thought I'd mention that. So that's it. But very cool Easter eggs if you're a Grant Morrison Doom Patrol geek. Once again. All right. So let's get into our main topics. And I managed to come up with a theme here at the last 5 minutes right before we got on the podcast. So hooray for necessity being the mother of invention. All right. So actually pretty decent theme as it turns out, I think. Topic number 1, Total Recall. And that is, I want to talk about Flex, Dolores, Cliff, and Jane. So this is the big Flex Mentallo episode. We get a little flashback sequence back in the 60s with Flex and Dolores trying to have a nice little picnic when things go horribly, horribly awry. And then we get, obviously, later pick up with Cliff and Jane trying to, rather frustratingly, to get Flex to recover his memory. So think about Flex in this episode.
So
what's your take on the character?
Flex. This is because obviously I haven't read the comics. Don't know if this is a comic character, but I was surprised that with all the muscles that he actually has
Mm-hmm.
more mental powers. And in fact, you when they're setting up the picnic, at
Right.
first you're like, huh? And then you very quickly see that even though,
Yeah.
he's flexing and showing his muscles, he truly just has
Yes.
wonderful, telekinesis and moving things. And
Yes. Yeah, it is kind of well, I mean, that's
exactly,
probably the
yeah.
mentallo part, mental part of his name. But yeah, it's Flex's powers are really weird, just kind of like they are in the comics. Basically, he can just you know pose and flex or whatnot, and then just
Yeah.
strange
Yeah,
things
and I
happen
loved it. I
somehow.
loved
Somehow,
I,
he's like they're getting ready for the picnic, and he's like materializing like
yeah.
plates of food and milk, glasses of milk, and a little of tulip, and just by posing,
Yeah,
these things
and
just pop
I
out of
really
nowhere, out
liked
like magic.
he was funny both before he lost his
Mm-hmm.
memory and after he lost his memory as
Mm-hmm.
well. Um, but really charming
Right.
um, when he remembered, and very much a hero when he's talking to the negative man, the negative spirit. Yeah, talking about him and trying to do
Spirit. Yeah.
very, yeah, very
Calls him
loyal.
Sparky.
And
Calls him Sparky.
okay, yeah,
And we'll
so
talk
he
about that
was,
in our
yeah,
second segment. I want to
really,
talk about
really
Larry and
cool, very in love with Dolores. A really,
yep.
it is a
It's
very
a very
tragic
very tragic
romance,
romance they actually
and
have.
the whole idea of him. Look, if you guys would take just a couple of these chords away, I would have the strength to do what I needed to
Right.
do. Yeah, yeah. So
To
I
to
liked
to
him a
get out of
lot,
here and free
and
us. Yes.
I thought the scenes after he had been kind of beaten down, as prisoner 722 or
Right.
723, um, yeah,
Yeah.
where all
Yeah.
he cares about
722.
is
Yeah.
his stories. I had not heard the word stories in a long time. That's what my
Yes. Right.
my grandmother
That
and
was kind of a
mom,
throwback. Yeah.
called that. Um, and
Yeah.
to have them watch that, and there was buzz about Cliff getting a daytime Emmy nomination. That was very funny.
That was pretty funny. Yeah, that
Please.
was it. Let's talk about that for a minute, because so like, all right, so after kind of trying to like basically punch out the TV as a way to shock and
Hmm.
anger Flex into getting his memory
Right.
back, which doesn't work. So Cliff has destroyed
Right.
yet another television in Doom Manor. Um, they go to the chief's study,
Hmm.
who apparently has a TV there. And so they're sitting around watching TV in there, and they're watching Secret Hearts, and
Yeah.
they're watching old episodes somehow, because they're watching the episode where Cliff had mentioned this, earlier in the episode, where he's like, he was actually asked to be on there as race car driver Cliff Steele, and of course does a horrible acting
He
job
is just
on the
horrible.
television.
I.
And it's this really forced plot where like there's a kid and he's in a hospital room and he's dying or whatever, and it's his last wish to meet his hero, race car driver Cliff Steele. And so Cliff comes in, "Hi, Billy, I'm race car driver Cliff Steele." Who obviously you'd never introduce yourself like that. And it's just in Cliff's just horrible acting, and he's telling everybody, "Well,
Well,
hey, I
yeah,
was under
and
consideration for an Emmy
it's such a
once."
send up of the legend
I
of
did
Babe Ruth,
Emmy.
right? Going to visit the kid in the hospital, and then
Yes.
can you hit one more home run for me? That yeah,
And Jane
yeah.
comes in and she's just appalled by
And then,
this.
I don't know if Larry is exaggerating. Larry, hey, you're pretty good. Well, there was rumor about it being a daytime Emmy, so that was just there
Yeah,
was just nothing. It was just
it was very
hilarious.
funny.
I that and
It was a great moment.
Brenda Fraser is just. I mean, he
He's got
does, and it's
such great
so,
comedic timing.
I know somebody else is in the suit, right? Another actor. Yeah.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
he
Riley
is
Shanahan.
so
Yeah,
wonderful. Yeah, and just such
he
great
has the voice.
acting.
Yes.
It's just wonderful. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's great. Um, so Flex, um, the getting back to when back in the '60s, Flex is they're trying to have this picnic with Dolores. This
Right.
kid calls out for help, and Flex obviously is this very throwback retro hero. He's the good guy, and he is basically what he appears on the package. He's just like, very, uh, I don't want to say gung ho, but just very
Yeah,
like
I mean he
classic superhero. And like in the Superman mode, and obviously we know we've talked about this, that he was a parody of the
but
Charles Atlas character in the
but a little
Asner
bit of
comic
this
books back in the day.
is the whole Christopher Reeves, the original Superman,
Yeah,
which I say has never been
yeah,
knocked off the King of the Hill and Charles's listings. I, you know,
no. And I've yet
yeah,
to see a superhero movie
yeah,
that does. Dark Knight got close, but there's just something about
yeah.
Superman the movie that just hits every note that it needs to, in my
We
mind,
may have to
at
discuss
least.
that because I agree with you. But I think it would be in our Titan Talk
Yes.
DC universe. Yeah, yeah.
Well, this is why.
That might be a good discussion to
Yes.
have. But anyway, that
But yeah,
yes,
he's actually rescuing
yes,
a cat out
and
of
I
a
thought
tree,
of
just
that.
like
Right.
Christopher Reeve does
So
in
yeah,
Superman the movie. Yeah, and it's kind of funny because the way he uses his powers is, he flexes and poses, and then the tree branch
yes,
lowers by itself so that he could just walk over there, pick up the kitten out of the tree, and flexes again, and the
yeah.
branch goes right back up by itself. And hands over the cat, and then things go completely Grant Morrison because
Mhm.
although this actually didn't happen in the comics, but it's very Grant Morrison-esque. The cat's eyes start glowing, and then the cat's mouth opens, and it's this
Yeah.
this beam of light that shoots
Mhm.
out, and you're just like, "What the f?" And essentially pulls Flex inside, kind of like
Yes.
the donkey from Donkey Patrol. That kind of just pulls him inside, and presumably, kind of like the whole Bureau of
Mhm.
Normalcy does with their little elbow devices. And that's
Yes.
then he ends up, of course, in the ant farm. And then that's all I want to talk about Flex in our second
Mhm.
segment when in the ant farm. But um, Dolores, of course, is just
Mhm.
probably going, what happened to Flex? Where'd he go? And the next thing we know, she kind of shows up years later. She's obviously older, played by the same woman that turned up a couple of episodes working for the Bureau of Normalcy. So we have to kind of presume that apparently the Bureau must have gotten a hold of Dolores after kidnapping Flex, and they mind wiped her and turned her into
Yeah,
one of their
absolutely.
agents. So that way, she goes to Doom Manor and sees Flex, and then
Mhm.
that's what triggers his memory. After all the attempts, it's Dolores is the one that actually
Absolutely.
gets Flex's memory back. And but tragically, again, even after all those years apart, they're finally reunited, only for Dolores to kind of crumple to ash and dust
Yes.
because of the Bureau of Normalcy. So yeah, these two. So Flex is not taking it very well as he flexes and essentially gives a big power surge to Doom Manor that
Yeah.
sends everything
It was
sparking.
really good. I felt I just really liked the relationship he had, and
Yeah. Were you shocked by
I
Dolores
was
crumbling to dust
I
like
did
she did?
not, and I thought it was
Didn't
very,
see it coming.
very sorry, sorry, I had a cough. I was really,
Okay.
yeah,
Oh, you knocked
yeah, I
that
was
cough
hitting the
knocked out the
mute
camera.
button, and I ended up hitting the camera button instead. So I was, and I loved her
That was a
saying,
powerful pop.
"Oh no, they told me that bad things would happen if I tried to look for you," and so very tragic end. Um, and
Yeah.
very nice they got a moment together, but I do think this will help to move them forward, right? Yes,
Well, as far as
absolutely.
the storyline, yes, yeah, because obviously Flex
No,
is not going to be happy with the Bureau, and
yes,
probably is looking for a little payback, I imagine. And obviously, we know that Darren Jones is out there, so presumably we're
I think
going
so.
to have another encounter at some point. But unfortunately, it turns out, hey, we got this Mr. Nobody
Yes.
thing to worry about probably first, I'm guessing. So we'll see what happens. What do you think of Cliff and Jane's attempts to try to get
I thought this
Flex's
was
memory
really,
back?
really fun, and
There was this great moment with Jane with an acetylene
yeah,
torch, which I thought was kind of funny. And Cliff's trying to talk her down, like, no, look.
yeah,
Isn't that taking things a
it
little
was
too far?
great, and I love um I just Jane kind of, go talk to him. Maybe this will work on it. It was just, yeah,
Yeah. Like, well, that was her plan
yeah,
originally when he busts the TV. Cliff does that. She knows, she's like,
yeah,
hey, Cliff, you kind of annoy people. Maybe you can annoy him into and
yes.
cause him to shock his memory back. And so she's kind of sends him, and just it was just so funny that the Jane sees that trait in Cliff and is like, hey,
Well,
why don't you
yes,
use
and
that
we
for
all
something productive
know,
for a
all
change?
listeners know, there's nothing worse when you're trying to watch one of your favorite TV shows or a sporting event and someone keeps talking to
Right.
you. And yeah, and you don't have a
And Cliff is
DVR
apparently that
there at the
guy.
Chiefs, so you can't pause it.
Right.
You know,
Right.
yes, they
Yeah, they
do.
kind of need to upgrade their tech a little bit.
Hmm.
It's like it's
Yeah.
2018 here, so, or 2019. Um, that yeah, they kind of like maybe you need to look into that DVR technology that all the kids are talking about these days. All right. Anything else about
Nope, that was
Flex,
great.
Dolores, Cliff, or Jane in this segment? Okay. Topic number 2, escape plan. So we had Total
Ooh.
Recall and Escape Plan. Yep. And this segment I want to talk about Larry and 722. So we're kind of still going to talk about Flex a little bit, but this is
Hmm.
kind of the flashback Flex, who's, if you notice in this segment, the roles are kind of reversed from when Vic was with Flex as 722, because in the in the modern day, uh, Flex had been there forever and a day, trapped in the ant farm. Didn't want to leave. Didn't was comfortable where he was. He told Vic that,
Right.
look, there's no point in escaping. And if you notice here, it's reversed. That Flex is the new person, and Larry's been there for a while, and Larry is afraid to leave and tells Flex that
Mhm.
there's no point in escaping. So what did you think of that kind of turn on itself on what we seen of Flex as
Um,
722 in
you
the
know,
present?
I really
That
liked it. I
juxtaposition.
love the idea that um he, Flex is really bonded with Sparky. And
Yes,
yeah,
and that's what and
so I
that's what Flex
really
calls
liked
the negative
that,
spirit, Sparky.
and the interactions, and I love the fact that for some reason Flex, I assume because of his mental powers, can understand
Right.
the negative spirit. And I like the idea that, right,
Which is kind of
and
funny because Larry can't.
yeah,
Like, they're not able to talk directly, but Flex can just hear him
and
clear as a
they're
bell.
establishing,
Kind of like how
yeah,
Flex can talk to
the
Grid or hear Grid.
they're establishing that um Larry's like, you're free. You can go, but I think he's dying because he doesn't have the negative spirit. Just like, though, in the flashback, they said the negative spirit is going to die if it's not with Larry. So I don't know if this is I don't know if that's because of the difference in time, or ultimately if Larry died with the negative spirit, Sparky died. I think that's so. The feeling I got was this is a symbiotic relationship now, and they need each other.
Yes, yeah, right. Because they kind of established in the '60s flashback that one of the lab techs tells young Forsythe that, hey, look, it's been 5 hours and they're showing signs of dying by being separated. So apparently there's at least a time limit, and they're establishing like, hey, about a 5-hour time limit. And originally in the '60s comics, it was like only 60 seconds. But here they're establishing like if Larry and the spirit are apart for like more than 5 hours, Larry starts to die. His organs start collapsing or whatnot. And so essentially, yeah, like you said, it's a symbiotic relationship. The spirit is keeping Larry alive, which probably explains why he's at least immortal. And has been around since the '60s with no signs of increased age. And then in the present, Larry, he had made that choice to, like he was willing to let the negative spirit be free, and going, like, look, I know I've kept you, you've been stuck here, but now you have this chance to go home to your dimension or whatnot. And the spirit starts to leave in this really powerful scene, and then it's kind of like hovering above Doom Manor, and then stops, and then thinks about it, and then chooses to go back inside and go inside Larry once again and heal him. Because Larry's obviously not doing very well. He's coughing.
The bandages have blood. Yeah.
He seems like, he's yeah, exactly. Yeah. So obviously, there's, it's becoming very dire. And, but the negative spirit chose to go back to Larry. It could have survived on its own. Larry would have died. But the negative spirit apparently made a choice to, that he wanted Larry to live, and was willing to kind of continue that symbiosis.
Yeah, I liked it a lot. I was really touched by it.
What did you think of that moment? Yeah. Because, obviously at the beginning of the season, they were so antagonistic toward one another. And now they actually have this closeness.
I like that they have kind of found each other. My small nitpicking, and I know that's just what people do, but I don't understand why Larry always has the coat on. I don't know, but he just always. I
wish. A little chilly.
Yeah,
maybe it just looks cool.
I like the fact that Rita changes clothes, and by the way, she was the Bureau of Normalcy.
We'll talk about Rita. Yeah,
shirt she made a dress out of jumpsuit. She made that.
Yeah,
she looked awesome.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's kind of a credit to April Bowlby that she can make even like a jump work suit.
Yeah.
Look good, I guess. But yeah, so this is again more development for Larry, and it seems like they've kind of come to terms here. And so it's been a really good character
a little
arc.
bit. Well, I'll wait for it when we talk about Mr. Nobody. Okay.
Yeah. We'll talk about it because. All right. So, anything else about Larry and 722? Nope. Okay. Third topic, final topic, True Lies. So we had Total Recall, Escape Plan, and True Lies. Can you guess the theme? It's pretty obvious, I think.
It's not a tumor. Yeah, very nice.
It's not the tumor.
One of the original strongmen.
Yeah, Arnold Schwarzenegger movies. Yes, and that was obviously it's kind of a double meaning theme this week because Arnold Schwarzenegger actor, was obviously known for his bodybuilding. And so it seemed to fit in good with the Flex Mentallo theme. Okay. So it worked out pretty good, thankfully.
Not at all.
So not bad for pulling it together at the last minute. But yeah, and for those wondering, Escape Plan is this really obscure Schwarzenegger movie from 2013 that starred him and Sylvester Stallone.
Yes.
As they try to get out of this prison. And didn't do very well big at the box office, but it kind of worked for the Larry and 722 segment, I thought. All right. So yeah, here, topic number 3, True Lies. And I want to talk about Rita, and I want to talk about Vic, and Rita opening up to a hospital patient played by Ed Asner, who turns out to be something more than advertised on the box. So Rita has a big breakthrough as we finally get the story of why babies are such an issue with her. And I think it's kind of like the last big breakthrough.
So I thought it was very interesting. Her face started melting and she had to think, come focus because the baby was crying.
And that was because there was the baby crying, and there's kind of baby carriage kind of in the middle of the waiting room that's unattended. And it brings back, obviously, her guilt. And as a result, as we talked about, her self-esteem is a big part of her being able to have her cohesion and look normal. So she gets herself together on her own, but she finally tells that story, and that's probably a good thing. Whether Mr. Nobody had good motives or not, it's probably good for her to get that out.
I thought it was really well done that they covered this, and
because they've been teasing it quite a while. So what did you think of the story, the actual moment, or the event that traumatized her?
How she lied to herself.
Yeah.
That everyone was winning.
Yeah.
Right? The idea that.
Yeah, because essentially what she was doing is she was essentially being like a pimp.
Yeah.
For this producer, Gene Stanton.
Same guy that she ended up killing. I did not look close enough.
I didn't make that connection, but I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't think so. I think that's another guy. But so
okay.
I could be wrong though. So if I'm wrong, let me know. But Gene, so what we get the story is that essentially Rita would go out and find aspiring young actresses to essentially have sex with this producer, Gene Stanton. And then because Rita at this point was getting older, she wasn't getting as many phone calls from people. And all of a sudden, once she starts hooking Gene up with these girls, or a girl, her phone started ringing again. She started getting calls, and then so she kind of kept up with doing that. And she would keep sending girls, and as a result, she'd keep getting phone calls for jobs and whatnot. And all these girls would go on to be like big Hollywood starlets. And when there's one that was like getting like she was crying during her Oscar speech, and Rita was watching this, and as a result, then there was this girl named Mary Beth Wooten, and Mary Beth we had kind of seen in Doom Patrol in that kind of little tease that Mento was doing as he was kind of raiding Rita's memories. And we find out that apparently Mary Beth had her meeting with Gene, and 9 months later there was a baby. And Gene wasn't going to step up to be a father, and Mary Beth didn't have anybody. So Rita essentially gave her like $100, sent her on her way, and told her, Rita kind of tried to tell herself that Mary Beth she'd find it within herself to pull herself together, and get her life on track, and tried to kind of absolve herself of any responsibility in this. But a week later, there's like an article in the newspaper that Mary Beth had
Right.
taken her own life. So essentially, Mary Beth was so distraught, she
Yes.
just decided to end it all. And there was no mention of the baby. And she actually considered taking advantage of the baby, but or taking, wanted to take care of the baby, but then her
Yep.
phone rang. And it just so happened this was the one that got her this big role in this big budget epic, Forbidden Congo. And if you remember, we talked about this. Forbidden Congo was the movie that she was on when Rita was exposed um, in that kind of jungle river to the whatever chemicals that turned her
Yes.
into Elasti-Woman. So that's where essentially Rita's career went downhill because of what happened, and Rita kind of realized that everything that happened to her um, on that movie and then everything after was she totally deserved it. And this is when the
Absolutely.
self-loathing kind of began and the guilt. And she's been trying to, she tells the hospital patient in the story that she's been trying to search for absolution, but it will never come. And the old man kind of kisses her hand and then tells her
Yeah.
that she got her power back. So that's kind of the story that we're
I
told.
thought it was a really good
And so what'd you
story.
think
I
of all
think it
that?
was um yeah.
Sorry to go into detail, but I kind of wanted to explain it all,
Yeah,
trying to
Steve,
get it, put it in
I think it
context.
was a really good point that we we've we've slowly learned of everything that
Yeah,
Rita has gone through. And this one we finally get to see um where things are and how
right,
where she got where she is, and now then how she can move forward from there. Um, and
right.
I do too.
I love that we're getting these payoffs, you know, and that we're not having to wait seasons after
Yeah,
season to get them. They're not dragging this. They're not dragging this out. They're setting it up. They tease it, and then later on,
yeah, and
way
I
down the road,
thought,
there's a payoff.
um, yeah, and I actually
So
think
kudos to the
that
writers.
um, they have done a good job of mixing character stories with the plot. Now I know Mr. Nobody has been impatient with
Right.
the character stories. Yeah,
Yeah. So
sure.
why don't we talk about that for a minute? All right. So obviously the hospital patient, um, Rita finally, um, she uh, she has this whole conversation with Vic first
Hmm.
after talking to the hospital patient, and she says that they can't keep running for Mr. Nobody, and every time they try to help the chief, they let their fear get a hold of them, and so they can't. She realizes she can't keep doing that. So Rita
Hmm.
becomes very strong-willed here. She becomes
Yeah.
very assertive, confident. Like I'm not going to be
Hmm.
afraid anymore. She's fed up with being afraid. And Vic realizes that, hey,
Hmm.
I need to be here with my dad
Yeah.
because, hey, I tried to kill him, so I'm feeling a little guilty over this. Um, so he's like, I'm not sure I
Hmm.
could be with you for this fight. So we're not sure if Cyborg's going to be in
Yeah, and it
play for the
doesn't look like.
finale or
I
not.
mean, it looks
Uh,
like we may not see him. Yeah. Right.
yeah, at least for these two episodes coming up. Um, he ends up reinstalling Grid, who repairs the gash in his left arm. And Rita goes back to the waiting room and heads for the elevators to leave. And just as she does so, the old man reveals himself to be
Yes.
dun dun dun, Mr. Nobody. And then from that moment, we completely break the
Totally.
fourth wall. We kind of go back to we go back to that white little nobody realm, nobody verse, and that the Mr. Nobody closes an iPad and he's like mimicking the closing
Yeah.
theme to the show, which I thought was kind of funny, as after the final scene. And then we see him, he's all decked
Yeah.
out in Doom Patrol gear. He's got like a Doom Patrol
Yes.
or DC hat. He's got a Doom Patrol shirt, and he's even got
Yeah.
a Doom Patrol throw blanket. And
Absolutely.
I want both of those, by the way. So
Yes.
why isn't DC Universe selling this stuff? Why? They should be, because I would totally buy it. And he goes over to this big promotional poster for the TV show,
Mm-hmm.
and he sets that on fire. And then he's going like, hey, the Doom Patrol is finally a
Right.
superhero team I can use.
Yeah, I love that where he
What'd you think of that moment?
Okay, this is okay, this is how we're gonna do. This is what we're going to as he said, now then I get a real superhero show. Enough of this character junk.
Yes.
And
yeah, he's like tired of all this emo stuff, and he's going like, now we can give everybody what they've been wanting to see from the start, a superhero show.
I haven't been wanting a superhero show. I've been wanting this show. So
yeah, I'm very happy with it. I'll take
absolutely
some superheroes episodes. Yes. But so apparently Mr. Nobody's holiday plan is, for whatever reason, we still don't know, he's been wanting the Doom Patrol to kind of work through their issues. And all this manipulation he's been doing is to do that. And he's trying to make them a better superhero team.
I think you're right.
If I get the gist of it. So the question is, why? Why do you think he wants a superhero team? Is it just that, like he says, talking about like, hey, I've been wanting this big showdown and I need a superhero team worthy enough to try to take me down? Like he's building these guys up knowing that they're not going to defeat him, but he wants at least them to be more of a threat than they are at this point.
He's just not normally a
or is it for something else that he thinks they need to face?
Yeah,
we're gonna have to see. I think we need a little bit more information, but at least from what we're told, it seems more like he's wants them to be more of a threat, because maybe he finds it more entertaining that way.
Episodes, yes.
To go, yes. So we got 2 more to go, and we'll find out more of, obviously, hopefully, what happens. But the question is, is he doing this for him to kind of feed his own ego, or is he doing this because there's a bigger threat that probably won't turn up until season 2?
I don't think he's getting them together for a good reason. Yeah, I think this is something to do.
Okay. Or just that maybe knocking them, like he wants to build them on this big pedestal as big mighty superheroes, so that he could just knock them down harder, and make them fall farther. Yeah. Just because he gets off on that. Like, hey, I built you up, and now I can tear you down.
I'm looking forward to.
Yeah. So, but very cool. And Rita tells the others that, hey, she knows where Niles is. So I'm kind of curious about, like, how do you know this? But she seems very confident about it, and she's like, oh, I'm ready to fight back. And she gets the team motivated to do it for Niles. And I'm thinking maybe she thinks of because of the tracker.
She did. Yeah.
Maybe that's how. Because there's that whole thing, like, well, if we find the Beard Hunter, we can find Niles.
I so hope the Beard Hunter doesn't come back.
So maybe,
I know, but I don't want him to.
Me probably will.
The weakest episode of the season. So we'll see. All right.
Well, it was, but I just don't think it was as bad as you thought it. But we talked about that. So, and then when we had Grumpy Jesse,
I trust the
Captain
writers.
Grumpy.
If he comes back, there'll be a good payoff.
Yeah.
Yes, they have.
They've been pretty good with their payoff so far. I think they've earned the benefit of the doubt.
All right.
All right.
I was going to.
Anything else about this episode before we move on?
I do not have any quotes,
favorite
but
quotes.
I'm sure
any favorite
you
quotes
do.
of the episode? There were quite a few. I'm kind of surprised. Yeah, I do. I have quite a few. First off, the scene between Larry, Cliff, and Jane, where Larry's going, this because of after getting back from the ant farm, and they just go like, "Oh, what a mess," Larry says, and Cliff goes, "No, guys, we actually did something right. We went to rescue Vic, and we mother humping did it up top. He's looking for a high five. Jane, of course, leaves him hanging. She tells Cliff, he nearly beat his father to death. And Cliff goes, and that's terrible. Really, really effing terrible. I don't think it should tar our accomplishment, though. We saved a superhero. Woo! Us, the F-ups. I think we deserve a small pat in the back for that. And he gives himself a little pat in the back. And we found Flex Mentallo. He's some kind of clue to finding Niles, right? So it's not one, but two things we nailed.
He was very happy as his scrap or crap. Yeah.
Yeah, and that was a great moment because that scrap sticker was still on his forehead, and he's because of his fingers he can't pull it off himself. So he's like, Jane, little help, and she basically just rips off the S part, so it just says crap.
Very funny,
which I thought was funny, and even Flex gets a little chuckle out of it. I thought. Another segment was young Forsythe and Larry when Larry's gets put in that big clunky suit, and Forsythe goes, how do you like your suit, Captain Trainer? Comfortable? And Larry goes, it weighs a ton and smells like a chemical fire. But on the bright side, there's plenty of room to flail around while you electrocute me. So Larry being a little cheeky because of his being tortured. Another scene was Flex and Cliff, where just after Flex had gotten shaved and got his shaven haircut, 2 bits, Flex goes, I look incredible, kind of like that hunk on the cereal box. And Cliff goes, if he'd been stabbed in the face repeatedly. And that was a great reference because he's got all these little Japanese flag, toilet paper squares all over his face where his beard, has been cut shaving. So that's pretty fine. The soap opera, Secret Hearts, actually had a really good quote I want to mention. It was between Chief Kincaid and Dr. Winslow, where it was very quaint, very faint in the background, but if you listen to it, it's Chief Kincaid goes, and I don't care that you ran off and married that Japanese sex robot. I never stopped loving you. And Dr. Winslow goes, Kincaid, please. And Kincaid goes, the Takumi 3000 will never love you the way that I love you.
Very nice.
Which cracked me up so hard. I just loved it. I just laughed so hard at that. Yes, Takumi 3000 sex. Hooray. That was good. Rita had a good line with Larry. She goes, Larry, I adore you, and I'm glad that you're all right, but if you get blood on that carpet, nice. I'll kill you. Yes. That was a funny line. And then, of course, Mr. Nobody's big rant at the end, where Mr. Nobody goes, a superhero team I can actually get behind. A superhero team I can actually use. Took you emo navel gazers long enough to work through your BS. After 13, whoops, that's better. After 13 pointless meandering episodes of character-driven schlock, we can finally get to the show that everyone wanted to see in the first place. A superhero show. Right versus wrong. Good versus evil. Hero versus villain. That's me. You bozos want the chief? Come and get him. So calling out the Doom Patrol without them really realizing it. So I'm not sure how effective that is, but, hey. But a great little rant. And Alan Tudyk is just always a scene stealer as Mr. Nobody.
So I give
so what's your rating for this one?
I was tempted to give it 10 out of 10, but I'm kind of holding off. So I'm giving it 9 out of 10 nurses wall murios. I thought those scenes of the 6 nurses was absolutely beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah. I liked it a lot.
Really?
And I was hoping there would be something, there would be a payoff on that, but it was just beautiful. Yeah.
Yep. I give this one a 9 out of 10 as well. We're totally in sync. I give it 9 out of 10 leopard skin briefs in honor of Flex Mentallo, since this is his big episode. So not really a fan of them myself, but hey, I respect it. I respect his game. If you got his build, you can wear pretty much anything you want, I guess. All right. I do have some Tell It to Titan Talk news this week. We don't have any Titan Tower news, but we do have some feedback from Holly from Wisconsin. So I'm guessing all the big Titans and Doom Patrol news is being saved up for San Diego Comic-Con. Mm-hmm. So, which is only a couple months away. So we'll stay tuned. So hopefully we'll get some more news here shortly. But Holly writes in, says, "Hello, Charles and Jesse. Another great episode. Getting to learn more about Flex was good. He almost had me going when he said that the chief had a twin brother and then realized that it was a well-used plot device in soap operas."
It was.
That was a good story when he's telling a story about the evil Nick, the Niles' evil twin brother. Sparky is concerned about Larry as well, as he should near the end of the episode. Cliff should stick to his day job and not become a soap opera actor. But he was nominated considered for a daytime Emmy. Rita asks, "Rita, what do you have planned, and where do you think Niles is?" She asks. "Wonder what Mr. Nobody has up his sleeve with the way the episode ends with him." I'll wrap it up here. Holly from Wisconsin. So, Holly, always once again great to hear from you. Glad to see you're continuing watching the show and enjoying it as much as we are. And we kind of talked about our theories, but we're gonna see what Mr. Nobody has up his sleeve or lack thereof. Yeah, but very cool. So if you want to be like Holly, and please write to us at titantalkcast@gmail.com. We'd love to know what you've been thinking about Doom Patrol. Hopefully you've been enjoying as much as we have. Or any thoughts on what's coming up in Titan Season 2 you're looking forward to. We'd love to hear that. Or, the second half of Young Justice Outsiders. Like to hear that because we're going to be talking about that eventually. And or just drop us a line. Say, hey, let you know what you think of our podcast. We're always in the mood to hear what people think and what we should be doing, what we're doing great. Whatever floats your boat. Tell Jesse how awesome he is, because he's always awesome.
Keeps the ship running straight. He is the bus driver. Yes, he is.
I try.
Yeah.
Organization is my superpower, apparently. So that's talking not so much, but I'm the organization guy. All right. But other than that, reach out to us also on Facebook at Titan Talk, the Titans Podcast, or on Twitter at Titan Talkcast. We can obviously use more likes and follows there, and would definitely appreciate that. So if you're so inclined, please do.
Well,
and Jesse, how can they find you?
Be reached. You can hear Charles and I talk about Doctor Who on a regular basis right now. He is doing most of the heavy lifting. But about once a month, I join him and we talk some episodes. The other 3 weeks of the month, he has a revolving guest cast of companions, and they're all being fantastic. So Next Stop Everywhere, you should check that. I am down to the last
Please do.
2, maybe 3 episodes of a Small Council Matters, the Game of Thrones podcast that I'm part of. We are spending much time discussing these final episodes, and so I would love for you to check me out there. And then, of course, Set Listing Bruce, the podcast where I talk to Bruce Springsteen fans from around the world. And we are also doing a series of Springsteen Thoughts of the Day, where we take an episode, take a Springsteen lyric, and share what it means to us. And I'm still looking at Charles Skaggs to do.
You need to send me the details of what exactly you're looking for from.
All right, very nice.
Email me and I will hook you up.
And Charles, when you are not keeping us on path and having wonderful quotes from the episode, carrying my part of the heavy couch, what else can we hear you? Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, you're just kind of skimming along here, aren't you? All right. That's all right. You're entitled. You can reach me, of course, at Charles Skaggs on Twitter and at Charles Skaggs on Instagram. Would definitely appreciate that. Facebook, Charles Skaggs in Hilliard, Ohio. Or my blog of geeky things. Damn good coffee and hot. Damn good coffee and hot, where I talk about all the stuff we talk about here on Titan Talk, including Titans and Doom Patrol news, any casting news, whatever comes down the pike. Also, news of my other podcasts I do for Southgate Media, including the aforementioned Next Stop Everywhere, the Doctor Who podcast, which I hear is a fantastic podcast, and also Ghostwood, the Twin Peaks podcast they do with Zan Sprouse, wife of comic book artist Chris Sprouse. We talk about all things Twin Peaks, David Lynch, and we'll be talking a little bit this week as we just had the passing of Peggy Lipton, who played, of course, Norma Jennings on Twin Peaks, but also was known from the TV show The Mod Squad, and is the mother of Rashida Jones, because she used to be married to Quincy Jones, producer. So we'll be talking a little bit about that on the podcast.
Yes.
That news broke last night, so obviously Zan and I will be a bit distraught because
Absolutely.
Norma was a great character on the show. But other than that, I noticed that, Jesse, your schedule's going to be lightening up a little bit here, because we're going to be wrapping up Doom Patrol in a couple of weeks,
yes.
and Game of Thrones wraps in a couple of weeks.
I may.
What are you going to do with all that free time?
Able to do more Doctor Who. So, yes. So there we go.
Oh, there
Absolutely.
you go. There you go. That's good. Yeah, we need it. We
That's right.
We won't have any comic book shows to talk about. So if you're so inclined, I have some thoughts about that.
Okay.
If you're in the mood to talk something at some point. So
Okay,
I have a backup plan. If you're looking for a good forum to talk about comic book shows. All right.
Yeah,
but,
one of
just
the
keeping
things that I don't have
there.
time for, but I think would be fun, is to do a one season forgotten series, like like a retro blast from the past kind of show. Firefly, because everyone knows Firefly, but there were other right. Yeah, that only lasted one season, TV like shows. Journeyman. One of my favorites is the Daybreak with Ty Diggs. Things like that might be kind of fun to go through, maybe a couple episodes at a time, just to kind of talk about that. But and I definitely think I may end up cutting this out, but I do think it would be worth us talking about Superman, the original, on this because of the DC Universe connection. So we should do that. So, and then I want to hear your thoughts too. All right. Anyway, as we continue. Yes. So as we continue with Doom Patrol, next time on Titan Talk, we're going to talk Penultimate Patrol, which I love the word penultimate, so I was glad to see them actually use that. That's episode 14, the penultimate episode of the first season. We don't know a whole lot. All the tagline was that the Doom Patrol enter the Nobody-verse to save the Chief. But if you watch the trailer, you see that we get the return of Danny the Street. So Danny's back next week, guys. So that should be good. Danny the Street would be a very cool anthology series. That you could do. Yeah. Every week you focus on a person from the street. Okay. Yep, get their story. All right. There we go. There's spin-off potential there, I guess. All right. So everybody, that's what we're going to be doing next week, as we get to the home stretch. We're coming down to the wire here to keep those horse racing metaphors going. But other than that, we'll see you next time right here for Penultimate Patrol. Should be good. Right here on Titan Talk, the Titans podcast. Bye, everybody.